gave you more than I gave to myself. You had me on a shelf, but now I'm somewhere else. I was bending, breaking, lost in your storm. Now I'm a hurricane in my purest form. You tried to play me like a fool, had me doubting my worth. Nah, I flipped the script on you, reborn from the dirt. You thought I stayed down? Nah, new mindset, I'm putting me first. This ain't no apology, this my reign. No more bowing down, I'm done with the games. Toxic love, no, I broke that spell. I'm the villain in your story, I wrote you hell. Messy goddess, fierce, wild, unleashed, untamed, not mild. Messy goddess, feel the fire in my eyes. No chains hold me, I cut all ties. Messy goddess, wild, free.
This is the Mediocre Black Woman Podcast, the space where we side-eye perfectionism, embrace our humanity, and laugh through the chaos. Girl, trust me, you're in the right place. Hey y'all, I'm Thea, your host here at the Mediocre Black Woman Podcast. I've spent over a decade working in tech, leading learning and development projects, developing content for execs, and running corporate and consumer podcasts. So yeah, I'm highly qualified, just an all-around baddie. Let's keep it real. But here's the thing. I've spent my whole life as a high achiever, doing the most and still hitting those walls we know too well. Being overlooked, underestimated, and overworked. Like my C+ work is somebody else's A++. And don't even get me started on having my ideas taken or being spoken over in meetings. Now, what really pushed me to start this show, though, was Kamala's loss in the election. It triggered something deep in me and in so many other high-achieving Black women I know. Seeing one of the most qualified candidates still not be enough for some people was a gut punch because it mirrors our experiences. So this is a podcast for us, for the women who are tired of carrying the world and still being told we're too much or not enough. It's a space to take the cape off, laugh through the chaos, and just be. So girl, sit back, relax, and let's get into it. Okay, sis. Okay, let me start off by saying that I appreciate everybody who voted in our poll on Substack to help me determine what the second episode of February was going to be. However, I decided to move this episode that y'all voted on to for the first episode of February. I went to an event today and it just got my wheels turning so bad, y'all. It's this one. Okay. So today we're talking about exhausted from being the advocate, the emotional labor of self-advocacy, right? And I want to start by talking about myself and kind of what was dropped in my being. It's not even fully fleshed, y'all, but I'm going to go in different directions and try to keep up with me. I'm going to try to make this all make sense and tie y'all to my train of thinking. But I literally just got home and my brain was running wild. And for those of y'all who don't know, maybe you guys remember from the episode, if you listen to the end of the episode from January 20th, we are ancestors' wildest dreams, that, you know, what they don't want us to know about ourselves. That episode at the end, I left some dedications about my mom, my best friend. They both passed away. And it was so interesting. On the way home, I was like contemplating all of these like thoughts in my head. And I went to this event. It was a networking event. It was phenomenal, like amazing humans and things like that. And sitting there talking with all these people and coming up with these ideas and asking these beautiful questions and having these idealistic conversations that then you have to try to figure out, how can I incorporate this back into my work, and like, where can I make change, you know? And I found myself getting extremely exhausted on the way home thinking about it. And I was thinking to myself, you know, I think I really want to drift away from the corporate environments and working for someone. And I've always wanted to be, you know, an entrepreneur, working for myself, you know. But this really kind of let me know that I need to be doing that. And on the way home, I was like, okay, I need to record the episode because I have all these thoughts, all these emotions. I was starting to tear up too in the car because I was receiving all these downloads in real time of like just words and thoughts and things from spirit and stuff. And so as we were going home, my driver was about to turn at the wrong entrance. And I was like, no, go up to the next one, right? And it's so funny. Had I have gone through that entrance, because that's the side I used to live on, right? And not through the one I live on currently, I wouldn't have heard this song. So music in my family is a really big deal. And my mom's song came on. It's Switch, I Call Your Name. And it was a sample, and it was being sampled in another song. But that was the most important part. And just let me know my mom was there in that moment. And that I needed to record as soon as I got in the door because I have all this in my spirit and in my heart, right? So I want to talk about why I'm tired of being an emotional advocate, where like all this buildup is coming from. And I think that it's personal to each of us. I actually interviewed somebody on a different body of work that I host about burnout and how deeply personal that burnout can be. And I know for us as Black women, there are things that we're going to have in common when it comes to our burnout, but there's also things that are going to be unique and special to us. And so try to like roll with me here, and I'm going to make it all come together at the end. But right now we're talking. Okay. And so you're going to get the raw, unfiltered thoughts, and we're going to make it shake. Okay. So, okay. Let me back up a little bit. So I went to this beautiful event, got all these ideas, got all these things going through my head. And I'm like, how can I, again and again and again, as we do. When I see something and I see a possibility, a solution, an idea, a way to improve things, a way to contribute, I am eager to like jump at that. But then I've thought about all of my experiences, including present day ones, where I've tried to share or make a change or do something, and I met with such resistance. I met with delays. I met with who are you to even like suggest this? But then behind closed doors asking me what my opinion or how I would approach something would be, you know? And so, all this stuff was going through my head, and I was like, this was really great. It's a great exercise in networking, but I was like, what am I going to do with this now? You know, I'm going to try a few things, you know, but at the end of the day, I was like, you know, maybe I just need to go ahead and pour this into me really betting on myself. And this was like part of my train of thought in the car on the way home. And I started to tear up when I was thinking about this and like going through the mental gymnastics of like, how am I going to handle my own life, my own business, like, you know, because I support myself, right? And I was just thinking to myself, okay, one bite at a time. You know, they say, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. I don't like that expression because why are we eating elephants? But you guys get the concept. Elephants are beautiful creatures and they actually represent a lot of good luck. This is what I'm talking about. Y'all just gonna have a conversation with Thea today. But see, this is what happens. This is why I write stuff down, y'all. Now you guys kind of see it, but I feel like you'll enjoy this too, because this is like straight out of my head. But I was doing the mental gymnastics in my head of going back and forth of like, it's time to leave corporate. Oh, you love corporate. You love what you do. I love learning different. I love what I like do. I love what I've learned. But I was like, this is not me anymore. I'm not, you know, I'm fighting. And this is where I think a lot of us, you'll find some alignment. We're fighting to share our expertise, our opinions, our brilliance in a lot of cases, especially for like things that are problems that we see clear as freaking day, you know, it's clear to us and we're sharing why it's clear to us. And that's why diverse perspectives in the room are important, because if you don't, you'll have a homogeneous kind of view on things, right? Like where everybody's thinking the same way, and it doesn't create innovation and it doesn't create, you know, create forward movement. And so I was just thinking to myself, why, after all this time, for over a decade now, I've been fighting to be heard by people who will either, one, say we're not going to do this, we're going to do that instead. Or two, say, oh, we got this idea and it's yours that you gave, and repackage it as like, oh, we came up with this. Or never getting to like shine and be seen for your contributions, and fighting with people in a lot of cases who don't even want to change. You hired, actually, one of my best friends, the one that passed away I was telling y'all about, she got hired to do a job and they wouldn't let her do the job and made it hard for her to do the job. And she got so sick that she eventually had to quit, like, as it was taking a toll on her physical health and her mental health. And I'm just like, that you hired her for this job. And so this is like a part, like one of the layers of many layers of why we're exhausted, why I'm exhausted, is that we've been fighting to be heard and seen in some spaces where our breath would be better saved on something else, you know? And it's not to say that we can't try to influence where we can, but sometimes y'all, Black women, I know we are magic and we move motherfucking mountains, but sis, we have to be for real about where we can actually make changes, what influence we have. We know we're brilliant. We see the answer right there, but at what cost? Your health, your mental health, your physical health, your well-being, like at what cost? And so just on the way home today, I was like, this is not the shit I want to be doing. I don't want to be sitting around here musing. I mean, I love brainstorming and I love connecting with other people, but I was like, I can't do nothing with it. Like I could try, but I can't do nothing with it. And so, yeah, on the way home, I had this like whole, like, just train of thought. My eyes were watering. I was like, not me crying in the Uber, child. Not me crying in the Uber. But it's just everything was like, everything was going, everything was firing off at once. And so, and then my mom's song came on, and that's what does it for me. It's a rap. And, well, I say her song, but it's like our song, you know, me, her, and my sister. And so I just, got really emotional, and I was like, I need to go record right away because this is too raw to not share right now. So you may find yourself in that part of my story where, you know, you really want to make a change. You really are driven and committed to showing up and sharing your opinions and sharing your expertise and, you know, providing a different perspective to create innovation. But, you know, you're being met with resistance and struggle, or someone saying, oh yeah, what about this, when you just said that, you know? And so it can be exhausting. And I know that a lot of us don't just experience this in our work life. We also experience this type of exhaustion in our personal lives, you know. And I think other women who tune into this, you will find the intersection of, you know, this intersection with us where you're doing a lot of the emotional labor for humans that don't have the capacity to do the emotional labor of humaning with you, you know, and for themselves a lot of times. And you find yourself compensating unintentionally, because emotional labor is one of the like most thankless jobs, by the way, and the job that typically gets kind of shifted onto women in the first place. And we tend to do a lot of the standing in the gap on the emotional front, whether you're a mom and you have that intersection with me. I'm not a mom, but if you're a mom and we have that intersection of, you know, carrying the emotional labor for people, a lot of us have experienced that. Moms, women, Black women. And then as Black women, we hold space for our emotions, which is often like, I would say 5% of the equation. And then we hold space for some of our peers, our colleagues, their emotional needs in that space, you know, where you're like feeling almost guilty about sharing your issues with others that look like some of the people I'm talking about, but also trying to like let them know I'm not excluding you. I'm sharing because I trust you and we can share this space together. And it's like we're always juggling everybody else's stuff, you know? And so I'm just tired, y'all, like really tired of that. And I don't have solutions today or even ideas today. I'm just venting and I'm sharing because we're community. And I think the more that we talk about these things, the more we can start to come to some of our own conclusions. Like, one of the things I came to is like, as much as I love what I do, I have to find a different way to do it in. I have to find a different environment to do it in. I have to create my own environment to do it in. That's another exhausting thing. It's like a lot of times we have to create the spaces that we want to see and that we want to be fostered, right? And a lot is left up to us. Another layer of why the fuck I'm tired. I'm just going to tell you all why am I tired? And you'll find yourself in it. I promise you, you will. I'm also tired because for over a decade, my roles and my work have always been extremely ambiguous. Like, I remember one role where they hired me on. I had a manager tell me, well, tell me what you want to do. I was like, what the fuck do you mean? What do I want? I don't want to work. So if you want to pay me to sit at my desk and work on other stuff, that's what I want to do. But what the fuck do you mean? What do you want to do? Like, what would align with the organization? Because I didn't even know the organization at that time. I was brand new. I had no idea what their goals were, what their ideas were. Like, where do you want to contribute? Would be nice. Followed up with, here's an onboarding deck of like what our mission, vision, and values are. And a lot of places that I've been have not had these. And some of these companies are like gigantic, like beasts and don't have these things. And so I have for over a decade now made my own roles, made my own, this is what I do. And I tell people, but like managing yourself, creating and coming up with your own work, and then managing some of your peers who you're also managing, even though somebody asked me today, Theodore, are you a manager? I was like, not formally. Like, have you been a manager? Not formally. Not formally. I've managed a lot of people, but not formally. No, definitely not. I don't even want to manage people because, man, managing people is hard work. I'd be great at it, but it's hard work. I mean, I've done it, but it's hard work. That's what you're managing your peers sometimes in some instances where if you're paired up with somebody on work things and you have to almost tell them what they need to do or instruct them, you know. And then there's also managing your freaking managers, which I've done a lot of. I manage up really well, but it's exhausting. So I'm managing all those things. And then to add on top of that, also managing the way I show up in the workplace of like the masking, the code switching, the awareness of and hyper awareness in a lot of scenarios of how you're coming off, how you're being perceived. Like walking in there with that every day, you know? And so I know why we're tired. That's why we're tired. In a nutshell, that is why we're tired. I know a lot of y'all can relate to this. I loved when the era of Zoom came because I've always felt like Zoom is a little bit of an extra protection, and I felt myself able to speak up more for myself in the workplace since having moved to a virtual space. And not everybody has that consideration. So I feel for people who go into the office and still have to put up those masks, have to have those walls up, and then still have to navigate all the other shit I just told you about. Like, what? Like, and people want to know why we're tired, and people want to know why we're not participating anymore. Why some of us feel like take us out of the woman of color equation and just call us Black women. Like, you know, what? I'm trying not to be petty, but these are some of the conversations. This is not petty. This is real. But this is why some of us, we're tired. We don't want to be a part of it anymore. We've done our part. We feel like we've carried a lot of weight. We've tried, you know, but y'all got it. Y'all got it now. You know, there's so many people that want to be in charge or that are so beholden to. And some people feel like they derive their value in the amount of things that they can do or what they do specifically. When if you work together, you work in a collaborative way with people, actually get a lot further, you know, and the egos are checked and things like that. But, you know, everybody knows the right answers and no one wants to collaborate. So there you go. Okay. So that's part of why we're tired. Okay. And when I originally asked y'all about this, because I was really curious, because how I pick my topics, and I was kind of explaining this to folks recently. How I pick my topics is I have structures for things, which y'all know, like all the different episode types. But I also have kind of like, I'll listen to what people say. I'll listen to what I'm talking about most of the week or most of the month, whatever. And I write stuff down all the time. I'm reading, I'm writing, like I'm always journaling, doing something, you know, sitting in silence to like really absorb what's coming to me. And I was having a lot of conversations about exhaustion and some other conversations about other things. So I posed the poll to y'all to see like, okay, are we tracking with what we actually want to discuss? And so this week I had a lot of conversations with people who felt like exactly like me. And I've been feeling it too for so long, you know? And the exhaustion of having to like always stand up for yourself, it's so real. Especially as Black women, because not only are we advocating, but we're, like I talked about, we're often navigating the layers of bias, stereotypes, expectations. It's a lot, you know? And, so, okay, there's a few reasons why we're so damn exhausted. The first being like this whole superwoman thing. And I think a lot of us have started to really drift away from that, right? This is why mediocre Black woman. We're not trying to be superwoman. I don't know if y'all remember this one song. It's by Karen White. Or no, not Karen White. I'm thinking of, no, this is Karen White. I'm not your superwoman. I'm not the kind of girl that you could let down and think that everything's okay. Like, she was standing up for herself. But I think a lot of us have started to drift away from like that superwoman stereotype, that strong Black woman stereotype, and to just be, you know? And people love to project this on us. And some of us like to wear it as a cape, but we're getting better about being like, you know what? I don't gotta have it all together by myself, you know? But in that same vein, we're expected to be strong. We're expected to be resilient. And sometimes people don't even think that we need support, you know? And when you're constantly seen, even if you haven't like projected that image, but because that is what is represented, even when you're not trying to put that on as your cape, people sometimes often see you as someone who can handle anything, and folks stop checking in on us and they stop stepping up, right? And there's the fact that being both Black and a woman means, again, you're constantly navigating this weird intersection of being underestimated, but also over monitored. Like, you're expected to prove yourself in every space, but God forbid you come across as too assertive or too aggressive. We always walking on tight ropes and eggshells, y'all. And man, the mental energy, I don't know if y'all can hear it in my voice. I think this is why I wanted to record it, why Spirit wanted me to record it tonight, because like I could have went back and read up all my bullet points and everything, but I wanted y'all to hear the exhaustion firsthand in my voice. Like, I don't know if y'all can hear how tired I am. I can feel it. My energy is not like what it normally is, but like it's the energy of being hyper aware all the time, reading the room, trying to figure out how to approach a conversation, managing your tone, like so you don't make anybody uncomfortable. Like, oh my God, I was in my head the other day about something I had said in person at the workplace, and I was like, oh, I really said that. That go the wrong way. But I was like, you know what, fuck it. You can't control what the interpreter of the message is going to like, you know, feel, but it's draining. Cause like I don't know if y'all have been through this, but I've had situations where like people try to make you almost into the aggressor. And sometimes these are people that you're like close to in different scenarios. And I remember the first time it happened in college the first time, because I distinctly remember this because I was really close with this person. And instead of coming to talk to me about what was actually ended up being a misunderstanding, they went to my boss, and then my boss came to me, and this is in college, and I didn't know how to deal with this stuff back in the day. I still don't sometimes, because I'm just like, why the fuck they didn't come to my face? Say it with your chest, like come to my face, And so I was really hurt because like the trust was broken because, you didn't come to me first. You went around me, and then not only around me, to my manager. Like, did you know how harmful that is? And like a real threat to my actual like livelihood, because, I was working to support myself somewhat through college. My family was not wealthy, so I had to do some stuff too. Like I had to work too. I worked 4 jobs when I was in school. So you're not about to mess up one of my jobs because you can't communicate. But I just remember that happening. And like, I was like, man, God forbid that this comes back in a weird way. And I was like, I didn't actually mean it like this. And like, it was like, I didn't code switch that time. Also in the same vein, I do have a really amazing, friend, and I deeply failed at code switching with her the other day, and I was like, oops. I was like, I didn't mean to say that around. She was like, and I appreciate this response. She said, I know what's in my lane and I know what's not in my lane. And I was like, this is why I fuck with you. This is why we were friends, the masking code switching doesn't happen with her, which is amazing. And we intersect in so many ways and connect about so many other things and stuff. And so anyway, so yeah, I was like, will this come back to me? Will this come back to bite me? Like, and fortunately, like I got out of my head about it, but I'm like, we're always policing our tone. Am I aggressive? Am I this? Am I that? Blah, blah, blah. Now, here's the thing. This constant self-advocacy comes with a cost, right? It wears you down emotionally. Like, have you ever been so overwhelmed or so frustrated that you just start crying and you get mad at yourself for crying? You're like, why the fuck am I crying? Man, cry, because let me tell you something. If you're able to cry while you're mad, you're releasing the energy, first of all. Because I remember like a couple months ago, I was so mad about something that happened, and my chest was tightening up, my back was tightening up, and I felt myself wanting to cry, but the tears would not come out. And I was so mad. I was like, come out. So I went to get adjusted at the chiropractor, and then the tears started flowing. I was like, I just need to be realigned. But like, don't be mad about yourself for crying, because sometimes that's the only way to get it out. I heard this quote a long time ago. It was like, I'm messing it up for sure, but it was like, crying is how you water the flowers, right? And y'all know when you water flowers, guess what they do? They bloom. And so crying is a way to let yourself bloom. And as Black women, side note, that's some other shit I hate, is like always saying as Black women. So just know that when I say for us or as me, I'm talking about Black women as a collective. I hate that expression. As Black women, as a Black woman, as me, as Theodora. Because the world shouldn't have to be about that. But as Theodora, but being a Black woman is what colors my experience. Y'all getting all the downloads tonight. Okay. Well, as a Black woman, it's frustrating. And if we don't let our emotions out, we're going to bottle them up. They're going to sit in our body. I don't know if y'all heard of that book, The Body Keeps the Score, but it's really true. It was so interesting. I'll tell y'all this little side story. So I was married when I was 22 years old, divorced separated by 26, officially divorced by 28, right? And this is also the same year, when I started my separation, this is also the same year that my best friend had passed away. So I was just like in it. And because that's who I would talk to if like something was, and my sister too, obviously, but like those are my people, right? And so going through separation and everything, and, got through the process. It was a lot, right, for me emotionally. But I had started a new job during kind of like right before the separation started. And I was doing fine, or so I thought. And then one day at work, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, my neck and my like parts of my upper back I was just in this pain, like out of nowhere. And maybe it wasn't out of nowhere. I just never noticed and pay attention to my body, Now I can tell, I'm like, oh, I need an adjustment before it gets that bad. But before, back then, I didn't even have any concept of the mind body connection. I was so disconnected from my body. And so I was sitting there, I was like, dang. So I tried to get a massage that day. It didn't work out. I was still in a lot of pain. And then I found this like walk-in chiropractic place called the Joint Chiropractic Care. So I walked in. This is back in California when I still lived out there. I walked in. Ooh, the chiropractor had no business reading me like this, y'all, and I did not like it. But this is just to prove the point. It lives in your body. So I go into the chiropractor. He adjusts me or whatever. And then I don't know if he was also intuitive, because I've never had anybody say some shit to me like this after like, a wellness visit or like doctor's visit. But he was like, who are you mad at? I just looked at him like, you don't get on my business. And he was like, why are you so sad? And like, here's the thing. The divorce was the best thing for me, but still nobody like wants to do, like, even if it's a bad situation, you still don't want to do that because it feels like, you've failed, right? When we all know that that's not always the case. It's just things didn't work out, right? And so my friend, she says, oh, Tandy, you guys know Tandy. She says that anger is just really loud sadness. And so I'd been angry and sad really at the core of the emotion. And so it just goes to show how much stuff can live in your body. And because of all the things that we're faced with and all the numbing and all the put your chin up and all the like, we got to be better than everybody else, 10 steps ahead, 15 minutes early is on time, like all that bullshit, and keeps us on the rat wheel and keeps us unable to stay connected to our bodies. We're on a schedule, on a time clock. We're on these rules. We're trying to hustle and make this money. A lot of us are trying to survive. A lot of us care for ourselves and other people too, in a lot of cases. And we don't have the time all the time. Like, I'm learning to make it now for myself because it's imperative to my life and my health. But you don't connect to your emotion, your body and your emotions together. The mind body connection is not present a lot of times, right? And so we don't recognize when things fell off in our body. We don't recognize when we need to address something before it happens. We don't recognize the emotional pain connected to the physical pain. I'm going to tell y'all another story. I'm just full of stories today. But this happened not too long ago. This was last year around in March. I was supposed to go up to Houston. And I don't keep a car. So I rent a car when I want to like take a longer drive, right? So I go to rent this car, y'all. And listen, I got the car and I walk out to the car with the keys and everything. And so I always kind of go around to the passenger side first so I can put my stuff down. So I'm walking. There's nothing on the ground, y'all, just to be clear. Nothing on the ground. Nothing in my pathway. I just fell out of nowhere. And when I fell, I just sat there for a bit because I was like, did I really just fall in this parking lot? So I'm just sitting in the middle of the parking lot in a rental car place in a super busy place in Austin. And I'm just crying. I'm just boo fucking hooing in the middle of the parking lot. And then finally I go to get up and my ankle is so jacked up, y'all. My ankle was in so much pain. It was swollen. It took a while before it healed itself and stuff. But I think it was my body was trying to tell me to slow down. And of course I pushed past it and then it got worse and it affected other trips that I went on with friends and stuff, And so we really have to listen to our bodies. And we have to also listen to what our body is trying to tell us about our emotions, and about what's going on with us, When I start to get overwhelmed, I notice I can feel stuff in between my shoulder blades. And I notice I start to like feel a different mood, or like things feel a little bit down. I wasn't correlating those things before, Now I have this really cool thing. So if you can't do all the things, you can find some things to do. I have this cool thing. It's called an acupressure mat. And so when I'm in between chiropractic appointments, I just lay on it and it helps keep everything kind of open until the next one, and it applies all this pressure in the right spots and stuff. And so anyway, all that to say is that we have to be connected to our emotions, and it's okay to cry, and it's okay to let those things out, because if you don't, it's going to sit in your body. The body keeps the score. Okay. And emotionally advocating for yourself, emotional labor can also mess with your confidence, and I think this is kind of what I was alluding to in the beginning, just now I'm putting more of the words together, is, if you keep advocating for your value and people don't respond, it's super easy to start questioning if you're asking for too much, or if you're the problem, or if because again, it's not just limited to workplace stuff, as Black women, it's not limited to as personal stuff, it's relational stuff. And so, you start to question and ask if you're asking for too much. You start to negotiate a little bit on your worth. You start to question your existence sometimes, right? Even though you're not asking for too much, and your value is undeniable, inherent, The people I met today were so sweet. They were like, yeah, we can tell that you have a podcast because we love your voice. We love listening to you talk. I was like, ooh, y'all better keep talking to me. I'm going to take y'all in my purse and, pop you out for later. But it's just like, I want us to really internalize the magic that we make, because I know we'd be like, Black girls are magic. We have our mantras because we good for a good mantra, right? But then there's still this little quiet little voice sometimes that's like telling us that we are taking up too much space, or, just shrink back a little bit. Don't interject this much. Like, we start doing the stories in the head thing, and I just don't love that for us at all. Okay. And sometimes the emotional advocacy of things, the emotional labor of self-advocacy can sometimes, let me paint the picture. Sometimes it can take the pure joy away from what you're trying to accomplish. Like, I wrote that post for y'all about I'm not done, where one of my coworkers interrupted me, and this is past, it's not present, interrupted me. And I was like, I'm not done. And it surprised me that I said it, and I remember thinking to myself before I said it, I was like, do I say something? Do I not say something? Do I say something? Do I not say something? Or like the time when I quit my job. So I'm not going to tell y'all all of that because it's coming up in the next episode, and you want to go pay and watch that one, because that one's going to be a locked episode. Certain stories I keep locked because I gotta protect myself, y'all. People crazy out here these days. So subscribe if you want to hear this one I'm going to mention. But I remember quitting my job, and on the spot, by the way, I'm not impulsive like that, but that day I was like, man, I don't even want your job. Anyway, but so gearing up to even say those things, even though they felt right, they felt authentic, they felt like liberating and true to what I really felt and really believed in that moment. And in real life, like for real, not just in that moment, but it took a lot of energy just to even say, I'm going to say something, and then to say something, And so I think that's what was so liberating about saying, I don't even want your job in the moment, because I didn't think about it at all. And I never not think. I'm a Black woman. When would I ever not think about something, right? And so, okay. One of my best friends calls me Pastor Thea, and I kind of see why she does that. Because I'm like, I'm going to make the point. I'm going to go around the horn, but I'm going to make the point. We're going to have an hour-long sermon, a 2-hour-long sermon, but I'm going to make the point now. But anyway, so the thinking before the saying And then you do it and you're like, this is amazing. But then you feel all of this like energy that you had to put towards gearing up to advocate for yourself, and then to then advocate for yourself, and then sometimes to be taken around in a circle around why you shouldn't be advocating for yourself. The gaslighting is epic in the corporate space. They are masterful at that. If people just became more masterful at their jobs and less masterful at gaslighting motherfuckers, we would have this problem in the workplace. They got a master's degree, a PhD in gaslightery. Okay, I'm just saying. Let's get it crunk up on the in the dancery. We got you. Anyway, this is how my brain works. But basically, it can take away the joy. Doing the emotional labor of self-advocacy takes away the joy. Self-advocating can sometimes take away the joy. Like, doing all the work to get what you wanted sometimes doesn't even feel good because you had to do all the work to get what you wanted. And listen, this is not to say that, how you go into the kitchen and you make a meal and it tastes so good because you made it for yourself, right? It's not to say that there's not value in hard work and in putting some love and some time into something, but putting energy into just existing and just advocating for basic respect and basic things, and things that are rightfully yours in a lot of time, in a lot of scenarios, and having to go through that sometimes sucks the life and the joy out of the very thing that you were looking forward to accomplishing. Like, the day I quit my job, I was actually getting a compliment about the work that I was doing in the same vein of, you're not cheerful enough while you do it. I can't wait for y'all to listen to that episode because I'll take you through the play-by-play. But it's just like, I made a program the first of its kind. I put scalability to it. I had to do outside resources and inside resources to do it. And I'm an army of one. And I had no coordination support. I was the coordination support. I was the strategy support. Right? Okay. Talk to somebody who knows. Okay. So it takes away the joy sometimes. The emotional labor of self-advocacy is real. Like, it sucks the joy out of things sometimes. Like, you're doing so much fighting that you can't even enjoy being present. You can't even enjoy the things that you actually want to be focused on. It's like, why do I have to fight to do my fucking job? Let me just do my job. Let me do me. Okay. So what's wild about this is how often it happens to Black women. It's like there's this unspoken expectation that we'll advocate harder, work harder, and push harder than anyone else. Or listen, in a lot of cases, sometimes it's like, tire yourself out so you stop talking about it or bringing it up. Like, I'm keeping it a buck. And sometimes the systems around us are often so broken that we have to just keep pushing to stay afloat. But the truth is, the constant pushing is unsustainable. It's not fair that the burden falls on us to fix it. And at some point, we have to ask ourselves, how do I keep advocating for myself without losing myself in the process? I don't know. I'm just going to say that. But I will tell you things that have lightened the load and made things feel like I can make it another day in this environment. One of the biggest things for me is like having found my people. And finding your people doesn't mean that they help remove roadblocks or even giving you solutions or ideas. Finding your people sometimes just means that you don't have to face the day alone. You have people to side chat with or be snarky with. In a group chat, I have a few of those. You have people to, just shoulder some of the pieces of the puzzle and the energy that you're not in it by yourself. I can't tell you how many trauma bonds I have built with people through different types of workplaces. Actually, I'm going to see one of my friends this weekend, and she and I met in a really rocky workplace, and we just also happen to have interests with each other outside of that and the trauma bonding. But that's initially what brought a lot of us together, you know? And so finding my people has been everything. And at every workplace except for one, at every workplace, I'm like shady, I'm remembering back. But in every workplace, for the most part, even that one, I had some people, but they weren't like the people that I've had in other places. But I've had people that have just been phenomenal, and just we help each other get through the day. I used to have this one woman I worked with that we would get coffee together every day, and we were both going through divorces at the same time. So it was just like, just the camaraderie. And then on top of that, the workplace stuff, you know? So find your people, right? This one I suck at, but I try, like, I'm trying, but I feel like it dims a piece of my personality. So picking your battles. So like, not everything needs your energy. Doesn't mean you're giving up, which I have to remind myself, but you are being strategic. Like, it's about, you know, when you think about the electricity in your house and, you know, how much you want to spend on electricity, right? You know, and where you turn on the heat when, and like, how do you gauge all of that? It's kind of the same thing, so that you can get the most bang for your buck, get the most efficiency out of the least amount of use, right? And so you can close certain vents in certain parts of your home so it pushes heat or air, depending on which you turn on, to other parts of the house, right? So it's like, how do we be strategic and efficient to get what we need out of it, or to like continue to fight another day? Like, one of my friends was getting really worked up about some of the social stuff that's going on, because it does affect our families very deeply. And I told her, I was like, you know, I know you're upset, rightfully so, and this is heavy, rightfully so, but we need you in the fight another day. So try to let it go for a bit. Try to release for a second. And so pick your battles. Focus on the things that matter the most to you, and let the small stuff go. Actually, my grandmother, way back in the day when I was in high school, my grandmother gave me this book, and it was called Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, and Trust Me, It's All Small Stuff. I was like, dang. And sometimes I feel like with the whole picking your battles thing, it's going against my personality, because I see things and I want to contribute, and I want to help innovate, and I want to help make things better and fair for everyone involved. And my emotional needs are harmony. I need harmony, you know, and I can't always get that. And so sometimes it feels like a self-betrayal to not speak up about the things, or to not get excited about the things that are possible and could be changed. But as I'm becoming an adult, and I'm becoming an adult, I've been an adult for a couple of decades now, but as I'm getting older, I should say, I'm starting to see the wisdom and the value in picking your battles wisely. Sometimes it does feel like a self-betrayal, I'm not going to lie. That's why I said I suck at this one. I'm getting better. Like, I'm getting much better. Like, I'm really proud of myself. I'm like, not my monkeys, not my circus. But this one is hard. And I think that, you know, if we could start gauging where to put our energy at, you know, and what to fight for, what really matters. I actually have this tattoo on the inside of my forearm. It says, "Be a voice, not an echo." And I got this tattoo because it constantly reminds me of gauging when to speak up, or gauging what's important to me to speak up about, and quietly inside of myself using my intuition to discern what this is going to be and feel like, right? And what the outcome, I mean, I can't control all of the outcomes, but like, is this something that is worth my time? You know, how will I feel about it? So I'm still working through that. And then creating boundaries. Sometimes in the workplace, it's hard to have boundaries, because you can say things, but then there's still some things that you just have to do, right? And I've been really good about ask a lot of questions. Ask lots of questions. And I ask questions about things. I kind of have like an advising kind of nature about me. So I'll ask questions, and I help people make connections in their brain. And then oftentimes they find out they didn't even need me in the first place. I'm like, yeah, go free, fly free. Go dance in the grass in the flower garden. But yeah, so boundaries are not always easy. in the workplace because there's just some things you have to do, but you can still do your best to create them and express them. And it's better that you express them because even if things are a certain way, like right now, there's something I had to work on, even though I already kind of set the boundary of like, I really don't have the bandwidth for this. It's on my manager's radar, and I'm sure as soon as there's an opportunity, they will make the adjustment but it's because I've said something. And there's plenty of times in the past where I haven't said a thing and just kept mentioning the bandwidth, but not saying like, I can't do X, Y, Z because of the bandwidth, because, another thing that we have to let go of. We really can't do everything. We really can't do everything. Not all at once anyway. And so it's okay to say that. And I know sometimes that's been used on us in the past, which is why we don't want to say that. But the problem with not saying that is giving the appearance that you can manage much more than you can really manage. Like, we can manage a lot, but that's because I feel as though we have been conditioned to be in hyper work mode, hyper workhorse mode, like hyper overdoing. And I actually heard someone say that burnout can also show up as putting your head down and really going to town on everything. That can also be a sign of burnout. And so we take on a lot of stuff. And sometimes we need to have boundaries. And that's that on Mary Had a Little Lamb, period. And rest is resistance, This one is big. I have, listen, I'm the queen of, I'm gonna take a day. I'm gonna take a week. I know not everybody can do that in their work environments, but I've always I contracted for so many years where meaning I didn't have all the holidays or have all the open time off and all of that. So I've been there where I was just working day in and day out. And then I looked for a place where I could have the open PTO policy or have a PTO policy, because for a long time, all I got was holidays. I didn't have PTO. And paid time off for those who aren't familiar with the lingo. But I finally prioritized taking the time, And to be honest, y'all, me now, reflecting on me back then, I wish there's times that I would have just been like, you know what? I'm taking the PTO even if it's not paid. I'm taking the time off even if I don't get paid for it. Because the way I ran myself into the ground back in the day, I used to go ham, y'all. I used to go ham. I like to work, okay? I'm not gonna lie, I love to work. It's probably a trauma response, who knows? But I love to work. Especially when it's work that's creative, and I can see everything as creative, when I have the opportunity to. But anyway, I'm drifting from the point. Rest is resistance. And this is why I started this space of the Mediocre Black Woman. So we don't need permission because we are badass beings and we will do what we need to do every time. But what I will say is sometimes we need a little permission to take a respite, to recharge ourselves. And like I said, it's what I told y'all that I told my friend. We need you in the fight, and if you fizzle out in act 1, we not gonna have you. We're not gonna have your brilliance, your gifts. You're not gonna have you. And so make sure you take that rest. Rest is resistance, and I know we're so conditioned to go, do, create, all this, use your magic. But the most rebellious act that we can do as a black woman, the most rebellious act that we could do, y'all, I'm talking to y'all. Y'all know I'm talking to y'all. The most rebellious thing that we can do is rest. Rest. I know we're conditioned of, you don't even know what tired is, you're tired, you don't even know what tired is. I used to hate when people would say that. So I'm gonna shout out my grandma for a second. I love her. She and we have a special bond. And I keep finding out every day that we have so many similarities, and I'm like, okay, that's where I get that from. Interesting. But I remember one year for Thanksgiving, this is when I was still married, I was going to make Thanksgiving dinner for the first time, right? And so I was like, hey, can you write down all your recipes for me, Nana? And so y'all know what this lady did? She wrote down, this is how I talk about my grandma, she knows. But she wrote down all of her recipes for me by hand, and she wrote them out from scratch. And then she called me and she's like, okay, here are the recipes from scratch, but let me tell you how to make them semi-homemade, because with what y'all do and how y'all work now, you can't do what we used to do back in the day where you take all this time to make things from scratch. And I was just like, wow, what a way for someone of the traditionalist generation to honor and respect the present generations, and to honor that we do work hard and things are different. It's not just hard work, it's also the mental aspect and the emotional aspect of things, and the way that things can subtly go so unnoticed, until one day you're like, oh, I have high blood pressure. Oh, I have a crank in my neck, like that I need to go to the chiropractor for. Oh, I injured myself, like, until some of those things happen, right? Or other things scream at you about your health and your emotional well-being and stuff. And so it's just so beautiful for her to honor us like that. And, again, like, we can be tired. That is a real thing, right? Rest is not a reward. Rest is life or death. Rest is necessary. So step back, let people miss you and your brilliance for a minute. They'll survive because they ain't listening no way sometimes. So anyway, I just wanted to share all this with y'all because it was top of mind. I had all these emotions running around it. And I was like, sometimes we just got to come off the cuff and have a conversation. And not that we don't have conversations in other episodes, but I was like, no bullet points. We gonna talk today. I did pretty good though. Like with my little asides, I still figured it out and kind of kept us on track. But anyway, here's the thing. I wish we didn't have to fight so hard to be treated fairly. But I also know that every time we advocate for ourselves, we're teaching people how to treat us and paving the way for the next woman coming up behind us. Still, it's okay to rest. It's okay to ask for help. And it's okay to demand spaces where advocacy feels less like survival and more like thriving, because we deserve to be seen, valued, and supported. And not just because we fought for it, but because it's our right. So I am challenging all of us to do one thing, if nothing else, just one thing of resistance, whether that's rest, whether that's boundaries, whether that's finding a new person, that you can connect with and support and be there for each other. Pick your battle and not speak up about one thing, but maybe speak up about another and be more cognizant of that. I challenge us all to do at least one thing. Also, I know we talked a lot. I know I told you there's some things I don't know. There's some things I do know. And I just want to reiterate that part of us being on this mediocre Black woman journey is not always about solutions. Sometimes it's just to come in and talk and have a space to connect, a space to share your frustrations, a space to just be in support of each other, a space to be seen and validated and heard, and not to be looked at crazy or gaslit by these gaslit and PhD having folks, master's degree having folks. I used to have a mentor that would say PhD stands for a player hated degree. I'm like, please stop. Anyway, yeah, I wish for us to take a step back. I challenge you to do that this week. Find something that you can do. And it's February, so find something you can do all month, okay? And let's start doing that. But it's not always about solutions. We're just going to talk sometimes. And I think through our shared dialogues and through our shared practices as a collective, we might find some things that work for us, some things that don't. I would like for y'all to go ahead and, one, get on Substack, like the post over there, subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to the publication more than a newsletter, the publication. I want you to comment on this post and let's start a conversation. We also have a group chat, a subscriber chat on Substack, and that's not just my space, that's y'all's space. So if you want to pose a question, you want to start a conversation, you heard something that helped you. Like today, somebody was talking about alarms, and I was like, oh, I heard about sunrise alarms, and I was like, I haven't done a whole lot of research on it, so I don't know a whole lot. And then one was like, oh, I'm gonna, look for I'm going to look into it. And I was like, well, let me know what you find out. She came back with a super helpful article and link. I was like, I just love us. We are so magnificent. We are so generous and helpful. And I'm like, let's pour that generosity and helpfulness into spaces where it's valued and it's appreciated and people genuinely want to embrace and adopt some of what you're saying and use it. Like, it's really helpful and they're actually listening, So this space is for all of us. So I want you to make sure you go over there and join the chat, join the conversation. I want to hear what's working for you and what's helping. Also, before we get off, I want to shout out the places that really be fucking with the mediocre Black woman. So I'm going to start US based first by states. And then I'm going to go into the different countries that are subscribing to us, because I appreciate and love how y'all are like, y'all right there in it with me, building it with me. And I'm just like, yes, this is what I'm talking about. So the number one state that follows us is New York. And I love New York, y'all. There was one year I went in like multiple times in one summer. I really like New York. I was walking around on the streets at 5 a.m. by myself, having a good old time. I love me some New York. The number 2 spot is held up by Texas and Maryland. And I'm glad that we were at least in number 2. So I live in Texas, y'all. Not from Texas, but I live in Texas. I was like, this better be one of the top 3, So Texas and Maryland, y'all are in the number 2 spot. Y'all are really messing with the mediocre Black woman, and I appreciate that. In the number 3 spot, it's a tie, 3-way tie between Georgia, California, Florida, California. He knows how to party. I'm from California, so I'm glad that y'all was in the top 3, but go ahead and step the game up. Step your cookies up before they crumble. I'm from there, so make it happen. And then in the number 4 spot is North Carolina. I really appreciate y'all. And then from here in order after that is Virginia, Illinois, Michigan, Ohio, New Jersey, Arizona, Pennsylvania, Missouri, Washington, Colorado, Massachusetts, Delaware, Louisiana. I have to stop here for a second. New Orleans is my absolute favorite city in the United States, and I'm gonna need y'all, Louisiana, to get a little bit higher than get into like the top 5, please. Because I love New Orleans. I love Louisiana. One of my favorite cities. Both of my maternal great grandmothers are from New Orleans. So there's a little bit of that in my blood. Okay, from there, Oregon, South Carolina, Alabama, Connecticut, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Arkansas, Indiana. Yes. And everybody else, hurry up and get on the map, because what it do? What it do? Especially Nevada, because I'll be hanging out in Nevada. So anyway, thanks for all the support. Now, that's from the United States. Let's go to our countries tab. Let's go to our countries tab. Let's go to our countries tab. Dang, y'all are really messing with us over in New Zealand. Okay, New Zealand is like the number 1 country outside of the United States. Austria. I'm sorry, I don't know why I said Austria. Australia, Denmark is next. And then India is on here. India is messing with us, and Mexico after that. So really appreciate y'all and all the love and the support. Again, make sure you like, you subscribe, you share with your bestie, tell them to share with their bestie too. And I just really appreciate all the support for the Mediocre Black Woman and for y'all tuning in. And this is only the beginning. And I'm just really grateful that y'all have come through with your support in droves. Like, we started this back in December of 2024, and I'm talking to you right now on January 30th, 2025, even though this will come out in February. And I'm talking to you, and we're at 273 subscribers now. And I just really appreciate y'all. And I want us to start talking now. Like, y'all are here. Y'all are subscribed. Let's start talking now. Okay? Because I'm not talking just to talk for nothing. I'm talking because I want community. I'm talking because I want to have conversations. I want us to have a safe space. So let's get it started and hot. Let's get it started and here. Okay, that's all I got, y'all. Okay, bye. All right, sis, that's it for today. Thanks for listening to the Mediocre Black Woman Podcast. Remember, you're magic even on your messiest days. Don't forget to share this with your bestie and tell them to share it with their bestie too. See you next time. Take it easy and take care.
I gave you more than I gave to myself. You had me on a shelf, but now I'm somewhere else. I was bending, breaking, lost in your storm. Now I'm a hurricane in my purest form. You tried to play me like a fool, had me doubting my worth. Nah, I flipped the script on you, reborn from the dirt. You thought I stayed down? Nah, new mindset, I'm putting me first. This ain't no apology, this my reign. No more bowing down, I'm done with the games. Toxic love, no, I broke that spell. I'm the villain in your story, I rose from hell. Messy goddess, fierce, wild, unleashed, untamed, not mild. Messy goddess, feel the fire in my eyes. No chains hold me, I cut all ties. Messy goddess.